Introduction to self-provisioning. So what is it? It's a new feature. So if you've got version 10 or you've got version 11, you have the self-provisioning feature. Okay. It provides a plug-and-play type of functionality to simplify the phone deployment process. So what you can do is you can turn on auto-registration. People plug in a brand new phone. It auto-registers to maybe a temporary non-DDI number with limited rights. And then the users themselves can dial the self-service IVR number and deploy their own telephone. Or we can also present a login option through XML on the phone. Or the administrator can deploy the phone for them. Using auto-registration, some template and profile configurations, along with the new IVR service, it allows, as I said before, administrators to deploy phones with minimal upfront configuration. As I said before, it can be done for the administrator on behalf of the users, or it can be done by the users themselves. What the users do, everybody, they get given a special self-provisioning ID and their Cisco Call Manager PIN. That would be the PIN that they would use for extension mobility or so forth. The thing about it is that if I'm the administrator and I'm deploying a phone on behalf of somebody else, I don't necessarily know what their PIN is. So the administrator is given a kind of an override code that they can use instead of the user PIN to deploy their phone for them. So self-provisioning, guys, it adds value to the existing LDAP sync or LDAP integration. Is that okay? So what this effectively means, everybody, all we need to do is add a user to the Active Directory and give them a telephone number, and that's it. They can get deployed automatically from that. So what happens is when you do an LDAP sync, when the user comes in, it takes the telephone number and from that deploys a directory number based on the universal line template. So once the user does a sync, you'll notice that there's a directory number created automatically on the system for them. And it has their name next to it and so forth. Now, they have the directory number, they have no phone yet. So what happens then, everybody, is you can then use the self-service IVR to provision the phone. And it maps it to that directory number. Or, if you don't want to use the IVR, you can use the quick phone add, which then deploys the phone manually, but using the directory number that's been created for them already. So, as I've just been mentioning, you have self-provisioning gives you two ways to simplify the provisioning of phones for users. The first one is self-service, and that's using the IVR. So as I said before, we turn on auto-registration. The user plugs in their new telephone. It registers to a temporary DDI number, a non-DDI directory number, and then they call the self-service IVR pilot number. Now, the problem is, if that's too much effort for them, so to speak, what we could also do is the phone that gets auto-registered, we could create a speed dial on that says self-service or self-provisioning, so they just press that. Or even you could have it that you have set it up in such a way that they just lift the handset and it calls the IVR automatically. We can do that by creating a private line automatic ring down. And what we basically do is we create a null translation pattern, a translation pattern that's blank that goes to the self-service IVR that only the phones that have been auto-registered have rights to see. So that basically means every time someone picks up the handset, it just calls the self-service IVR automatically. Okay, that's it. So the users will get prompts for a self-service ID, and the self-service ID, everybody, is derived from their LDAP telephone number. And that's also what their directory number is derived from. And then their PIN. So you can set, on Core Manager, you can set a default PIN that everyone gets, or you can, and they can change it then on their first, but that's basically how it will work. The other option, option 2, everybody, is where you manually add the phone, but usually manually adding a phone to Core Manager is kind of a bit of a laborious thing because you've got lots of options to set device pools, templates, device security profiles, zip profiles, partitions, calling search bases, all of that stuff. So what you can do is all that can be inside a template that you just deploy off that. So quick user phone add allows you to add a phone. You specify the user, the directory number, and the model phone. It just deploys it. It's simple. It's a simplified manual configuration. Again, everybody, I'm going to do demonstrations on all of these. So let's have a look at the building blocks of how it works. These are the components that we have to create to make it work. First of all, down here at the bottom, we have the universal line template. So the universal line template, everybody, creates, you put in all the options that are specific to the line. So the partition, maybe the calling search base. You can also put descriptions. Now, what we'll see in a few minutes, everybody, the universal line and universal device templates have variables in them called tokens. So, for instance, under the description or the alerting name, you could put hash first name hash space hash last name hash. And when you deploy the user with the quick add or self-service IVR, it replaces those variable tokens with the person's first name and last name. So basically, it adds that functionality. So the user's name is on the phone, the user's name is on their line, and so forth. That's what you can do. You can do the same with the device template as well, as we'll see in a moment. So what happens is those universal line template, that has all the user's line settings, and then you have universal device template that has all their phone settings. Now you'll notice in this diagram, there is multiple device templates. The problem is, the reason for that is you might want, a user might have a desk phone, they might have a Jabber soft phone, they might have a single number reach remote destination profile that they have to set up. All of those different phones might require slightly different device templates. So that's effectively what those are. So we can have a different device template for the different type of phone that the person might have. Now, to tie them together, everybody, what we do is we assign them to a user profile. Okay? And what the user profile, and we'll have screenshots and demos of this in a minute. The user profile, everybody, allows you to tie the line template in and the device template. And you can specify, I want to use this template for this type of phone, this template for this type of phone, and so forth. It also can control how many phones the person is allowed to deploy. Okay, that will be it. Now, then, everybody, what happens then is we assign the user profile to the feature group template, or FGP. And what this does, guys, this then gets applied, everybody, to the LDAP import. You'll notice with Core Manager 10, there's new settings under the LDAP synchronization to allow you to provide that feature group template. So that means then any user that gets imported from AD, it will apply this template to them and create a directory number for them automatically using the universal line template. What happens then, everybody, is when those users call the self-service IVR, it will then deploy their phone using the universal device template that's been assigned to this. That's kind of how it works. We can also, when we do a quick add, which I'll show you in a few minutes, we can also say feature group template and apply the settings. So that means when you do use a quick add, you select a user and you say, I'd like to add them a phone. This is the type of phone I want to add, and bang, all the settings, partitions, calling search spaces, call pickup groups, call forwarding, all of that stuff comes from down here. You don't have to set that stuff up. So it's a quick add. That's basically what it allows you to do. Now, what you can do, you can create users with this, and you can add phones to them. If you don't have an LDAP integration, you have an option to pick an existing user or manually add the user and apply all the settings to them. That's how it works. So, continuing on, what we also need to do, everybody, we need to build the IVR. Now, what's new? With Core Manager 10, everybody, there's an extra service that's been added. It's called the SelfProvisioning IVR Service. So, guys, it's an IVR that sits on the Core Manager itself. Now, in the past, we used to have a product called TAPS, the Tool for Auto-Registered Phone Support. Now, it's very similar to this, but the template, it didn't have the option for the variables and templates like we have now. Also, you had to run the IVR using Contact Center Express. So if you wanted to do the automatic deployment of phones in the past, you had to have Contact Center Express to run the IVR. But now with version 10, we don't need that. We have the IVR itself built in. Now, even though everybody, the IVR is running on Call Manager as a service, as far as Call Manager is concerned, everybody, it's an external application. So to get access to the Call Manager, we have to create a application user. Okay, so what we do is we build the self-service IVR and we assign it to a CTI root point. A CTI root point is a pilot number that routes to an external application. Now, Call Manager doesn't allow anybody access to. It has to come in through an application user. So what we do is we create an application user for the self-service IVR, and we associate it with the IVR service and the CTI root point. So that allows, when the self-service IVR service starts in the Call Manager, it logs into Call Manager and grabs control of those. That's how it works. That's how external applications access resources on Call Manager through application users. Now, for anyone that's worked with Call Manager and Contact Center Express, you know that's the way Contact Center Express interfaces with Call Manager. This is very similar, but as I said before, the IVR service runs on Call Manager, but it's still seen as an external application. It's not part of the Call Manager cluster, so to speak, so it needs an application user. And then lastly, everybody, down here, we need to turn on auto registration. So that means we can plug in brand new phones. They're auto registered, in this case, these temporary numbers down here. See those? But also you'll notice, everybody, with version 10, auto registration is even different. It now allows us to apply universal templates, device and line templates to auto registration as well. So this also, everybody, allows us to provide more granular settings to phones that auto-registered. In the past, with auto-registration, if you auto-registered a phone, you could only ever apply very basic settings. We can now actually apply more sophisticated settings to auto-registered phones because of that. So these templates are not just used, not just used for the self-provisioning IVR. They can also be used to add additional functionality to the auto-registration. So everybody, what we're going to do, I'm going to go back a few slides. We're going to do everything from scratch. So the first thing we need to do is we need to do the templates down here. We need to assign them to the user profile, then assign them to the feature group template, apply them to the LDAP integration. And then lastly, we need to build the self-service IVR and turn on self-provisioning. That's what we're going to do. So let's have a look at the screenshots for this. So the first thing we do, everybody, is we need to create the universal line template. Now, where do we find that? Under user management, we have a new field called user phone add, and that's where we'll find the universal line template. When you go to add it, what I've done here is I've called it demo, and you'll notice you've got the description. See under description, everybody, I've got hash first name, hash space, hash last name. That's the new variables. These are called tokens. See here, hash last name. So you can manually put them in, or you can click on this button here and disappear, and then you can click on them and drop them down rather than typing them in. There's one thing you've got to remember that, everybody. In the variables, they're case sensitive. They start with a first name, see, capital for the L, capital for the N. So it's capital L, capital N, first, and then you have to put spaces in there and so forth. So here you could put in for a description, hash last name, hash space, S space desk phone. And it will then, when you deploy the person's phone, it will show Smith's desk phone or whatever if the user's last name was Smith. Okay? So what we've done, everybody, we can put the description in here, because the advantage with this is the old TAP system, you deployed the users with BAT and you associated the phone with them. But the problem with BAT, you'd have to create an entry for every single user, and you'd have to you'd have to create the line for every single user description with their names in it. Here, you just create a template that everybody can use, and we can fill in, we can personalize it by using these new token variables. Now, you'll notice, everybody, I've gone in and put the route partition, the calling search base. Because the person may have multiple phones, including extension mobility, it's probably a better idea to have the CSS on the line. Because if you put the CSS on the phone, potentially then they could have a different CSS depending on what phone they logged into. Then everybody, what I've done is I've only expanded the first option. See down here, there's options to expand call forwarding, call park, hold reversion. Do you see those? So obviously I can't fit them in the screen, but there's a whole lot of settings that you could set here. Moving on next. Next is the device template. So here again, I've called this demo universal device template, and I've got the device description. And what I've done here, I've gone first name space last name, and then in brackets protocol and device name. So what it will show, if it's me, it will show as my description Dave Luby, SIP, and then 9971 if that's the phone I have. Okay, and I can put the profile. Now also everybody, if you scroll down, these are all the options that you have. So for instance, everybody, I could go into phone settings and enable extension mobility as well, and so forth. That's it. So moving on next. So we've got the templates done. What we need to do next is we create the user profile. Now the user profile is in a slightly different place. It's under user management, but it's under user settings, user profile. Now you'll notice I've called it demo user profile. But you notice, everybody, what it's got here, that's my line. I tie my line template to that. And here, I tie my device templates. But you'll notice I have an option to deploy different templates for desk phones, for mobile, and for remote destination on device profiles. That's basically it. So because I might want to have different settings for different types of devices, so I have that option. Also, I can specify down here the maximum amount of phones a person can deploy. Okay, so maybe they're licensed. You can restrict that to maybe what their license is anyway. So in this case, I would not be able to. I could go up to 10 phones, call the self-service IVR and deploy them, and they'll all end up with my directory number and my name in them. That's it. So what's next? We need to then create a feature group template. Now you'll notice the feature group template, we have settings for the users. So what we do here is we assign the user profile to that. So that ties our templates into that. But also, we have a service profile here as well. The service profile, everybody, what we can do here, this allows us to assign our Jabber settings. So your service profile will have your Jabber settings. So if someone then deploys a Jabber phone, that's where it gets all its settings. So it tells Jabber where the directory, the LDAP server is. It tells it where the voicemail servers is, where the CTI servers are, where the present server is, all of that stuff. Also, we can also do things like enable single number reach and so forth, subscribe calling search spaces, but that's basically it. What's next then, everybody? What we can do is we can apply the feature group template to our LDAP integration. So what we're looking at here, everybody, sorry, this is where I was. What we're looking at here is LDAP. So this is an LDAP synchronization. So we've integrated our call manager and we're bringing in our users from AD. Now, hopefully you can see that. So up here, everything is normal. So this is just normal as before. But further down, you'll see some new options. The first option is you can specify a group or an access control group. So all users that come in from AD get put into this access control group. Now, the access control group I've specified here is standard call manager end users, CCMM. That's the group, everybody, you need to be in to be able to log into the user web pages or what's called now the self-care portal. So the self-care portal is just the user web pages. So when you create a user and associate with their phone, they can log into that and it gives them a certain amount of management over their own device. But also, everybody, what do you notice down here? The big one is you can assign a feature group template. So that means every user that imports gets applied that, and it will create their line automatically from the user device, user line template, sorry. And then when they deploy their phone with the IVR, it will deploy the phone settings from there. Now, also, guys, you've got to remember their telephone number, that you have a choice. You can get it so their directory number is derived from their telephone number in the AD. Now, their telephone number in AD could be the full DDI number, but you want an extension number. So what you can do, oops, sorry, let me go back. Here we go. I'm pressing the wrong button. You can apply a mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the last 4 bits of the AD telephone number that starts with a 2, and that will deploy the directory number from that, and the self-service IVR service ID will derive from that as well. Or everybody, if you have no telephone numbers in AD or don't want to, you can just put a range of numbers down here. So that means when it comes in, it'll pick one of these numbers and create their directory number automatically for them. Okay. Just check up here. Check that everything's okay. That's cool. I'm just checking I'm not missing any messages. Then down here, everybody, then that's where our AD server is. So that's it. So that's these fields are new. They weren't there before. So this allows us. It adds. Basically, it allows us to it gives added functionality to our AD integration. And I mean, most people that are running Unified Communications Manager, their users will be coming from AD. That's basically how it's going to work. So what do we do next, everybody? When we sync the users in from AD, I've synced, not sunk. I've synced in a user called Ed Striker. I've just picked a couple of characters from a sci-fi program I used to watch years and years and years ago. So we have Ed Striker here. You'll notice his telephone number is in AD was 707-555-2001. Because I applied this filter here, it's created a directory number for him, 2001. But also, you'll notice his self-service ID is 2001. So that's what he'll dial. That's the ID he will use when he's provisioning his phone from AD. You'll notice it's created a directory number for him automatically. So I'm just going to jump ahead for a second. You'll notice on the system, he has a directory number, 2001, in a partition with his description and his calling search base. All of that stuff came from the universal line template. So I go back again here. Also, it's made that number his primary extension. And also, it's automatically put him in the standard end user group. So at the moment, the user, Ed Straker, is on the system and he has a directory number. He doesn't have a phone yet. So we can choose to use the quick phone add to add the phone to him quickly, manually, or we can use auto registration and the self-service IVR. Self-provisioning IVR, sorry, I keep mixing them up. Provisioning IVR. Okay, so that's the user. So the users, we've created his directory number on the system, and you notice it has his description and his partitions and calling search bases automatically. So once you've done the LDAP sync, those numbers are there automatically. Now, there's one thing you need to remember, everybody. It's probably more of an issue for me as a trainer. You need to make sure that that telephone number, it doesn't already exist on the system. If it does, it won't create that. So it won't create his directory number if that number's there. It doesn't matter if the partition is different, it won't do it. So you need to be careful about that one. Now, what's next, everybody? We need to build the IVR next. So what we do first is we create a CTI route point, and that's created under device CTI route point. Now, a CTI route point, for you people that haven't come across it before, it's like a hunt pilot number, but it points to an external application. That's basically what. CTI, computer telephony integration, is a way of integrating our telephone systems with our data systems. So basically, it's been controlled by an external application. And that external application, everybody, as we know by now, is the self-provisioning IVR. We have to then, so I've called it self-provisioning, we put it in the partition, and we've given it a directory number of 5,000, and we put it in the partition P internal that everybody can reach. So the auto-registered phones would need to be able to reach that partition. What do we do next? We create the application user. So I've called the application SelfProv. I've given it a password, and I've associated him with the CTI route point. So that means when the self-service IVR logs in with that user, it will grab control of that CTI route point. So anybody that dials that number, it will get serviced by the self-service IVR. What's next? We have to activate the self-provisioning IVR service. That's a new service on Call Manager on the publisher that has to be activated. What's next? What we need to do now is we need to build the IVR service. So this is a new feature. Under user management, where you'd find your end users and application users, you now see a self-provisioning. So if you go into self-provisioning, you have down here, this is where you tie everything together. This is where you assign the application user and the CTI route. So that says the self-provisioning IVR service will use this CTI route point and log in with that user. Now, we have an option here, require authentication or do not require authentication. If we say no to this, what happens is, when I call the self-service IVR, it will just ask me for my self-service ID, which is my telephone number, and nothing else. It will then just deploy my phone. It will not ask me for a PIN or anything like that, which is not really the best way to do it. What we can do next is we can tick require authentication. And there's two options. Allow authentication for users with user's PIN. With that option, if you tick that, the users will be asked for their self-service ID, which I said before is their telephone number, but also their PIN. However, everybody, if you tick the second option, it means the users can put their PIN, or we can have an administrative override code. In my example, I'm going to use 8888. So what that means, if I click the second option under authentication, that means the administrator can deploy phones on behalf of other people. But the problem is he or she may not know what the PIN number is, so they can use the override code of 8888. So if I'm deploying my phone, I can put in my PIN or the administrative override code if I know what it is. That's basically how it works. Now, also, everybody, just a tip, I've noticed in here, it's a bit browser dependent. When you click save, it doesn't save properly. When I was using Chrome, it didn't save properly. In Firefox, it seems to work okay. But I just noticed if you have problems trying to save that, try a different browser. In our classrooms, we've got Internet Explorer, we've got Firefox and Chrome. I've seen that students were using Chrome were not able to save. And then I said, log in with Firefox, it worked fine. So just something to keep in mind. If you have a problem with this saving, okay, that's what happens. Now, the next thing we want to do, everybody, is we want to turn on auto registration. So that's basically where it's always been, under System, Cisco Unified Call Manager. But as I said before, we're going to put in temporary numbers, say 2090 to 2099. But we can also assign a universal device and line template. Now, these universal device template could have everybody, you could have set it up in such a way that there's a speed dial that points automatically to the IVR if you wanted to do that, you know. So they don't need to know the number, they just press the button. Or like I said before, you could set it up so they just lift the handset and it calls it. Now, this is the quick user phone add option. It's back under user management, user phone add, quick user phone add. Now, what this allows you to do, it allows you to manually add a phone, but it simplifies it. So what you can do is you can go into it and go for users, and you can see I found Ed Straker, okay, on it. What I can do under Ed Straker, see, I can change his password. I picked an existing user, or Ed Straker is an existing user that came in from AD, but I could have just added a brand new user here and done it from here and set their password and PIN here. But also, Ed Straker's coming from AD, and it's detected down here that he has a telephone number of 2001. Okay. What I can do then, everybody, it's over to the right-hand side. I can click Manage Devices. If I click Manage Devices, it gives me the option to add a new phone. So I can go Cisco 9951, and pick the universal device template and click add. And the phone will be, that 9951 will be created using the universal device template that will put a description of Edge Striker on the phone and all these settings, and it will be assigned to the directory number. It will be assigned to that directory number down here. Sorry, down here. That's basically how it works. Now, the other thing I could draw your attention to, people often ask me, can you use the self-provisioning IVR for extension mobility? And the thing is, no, because that's not really what it's for. The thing about it is, extension mobility, there's no MAC address to worry about. When you're getting physical phones on the system, it's the MAC address issue, and that's what this solves. But if you've deployed Edge Striker, do you see down here, you can tick this tick box, and it creates the extension mobility profile for them using that directory number. So do you know if you're creating a user profile, a device profile for extension mobility, you still have to define a device type. So whatever device you pick here, if you tick that box, you'll be creating a device profile. So you could quite easily deploy an additional phone to that user. You could. In this case, Edge Striker already has a phone, an IP communicator. You could add another one to him, like a Jabber CSF device or whatever, or you could add an extension mobility template to it as well. That's basically it. So, everybody, what we have is we have a demo. I'm basically going to demonstrate this from scratch. So, what I'm going to do first, everybody, is I have a call manager server. My call manager is 10.10.1.10. I'm just going to log into this. Okay. And register 10.10.1.14. Now, what I've done, everybody, is I've added my users, my AD users in already. So if I pick Edge Striker, I've given him a telephone number of 707-555-2001. So obviously that filter is going to only use the last four numbers for the self-provisioning ID and the telephone number. So effectively, with this, guys, all you need to do is add a user to AD and give them a telephone number. And that's it. Bang. You sync them in, and then you just deploy the phones. So I have users in there already. So these are all characters from one of my favorite sci-fi programs. Okay, they're all in there. Okay, so that's the AD server. So the first thing I need to do, everybody, is I go to User Management, and then you'll notice this new option here, User Phone Add. And I'm going to go to Universal Line Template. We have some existing demo ones there to help us, but I'm going to add a new one. Takes a second to come up. Okay, so I'm going to go and call it Demo Universal Line Template ULT. Now, to see the description here, I can click on here and add tokens. So I want to do first name, and then I'm going to do a space, last name. Okay, and do OK. Or I could have written it in manually. Okay. Then under the alerting name, I'll put it in the partition. I've got some partitions and calling searches set up already, so I'm going to do P internal. I don't have voicemail, but I am going to assign him Edge Striker a calling search space. So I'm going to give him HQ full access because I trust him. The alerting name, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in and go first name, space. Don't forget the space, otherwise you'll have Edge Striker with no space, and last name. If I scroll over here, you can see email, department, manager, but there's a lot of other ones that are not there. You can do protocol, you can do device name. There's a whole load of options in there. Now, what I can also do, so there my line, if I scroll down, I open up these boxes. I can set other things, like my call pickup groups, my music on hold settings, my call forward settings. See in here, I'm not going to set them, but they're all settable. So for now, I'm happy with that. I'm going to do save. And it should put up a message to say, see here, save was successful down at the bottom. What I'm going to do, so that's the line template. I need to do the device template next. So I'm going to go to User Phone Add, Universal. Sorry, where am I gone? I've lost it now. Universal Device Template. as before, there is some existing ones. So see, they have one for auto register. I'll just go into this one. They have some ones there already for reference. So you're not starting from scratch, so to speak. They do take a second to load up. Okay. You can see in here the script. Now, I just want to show you this one. See what they've done? I'm going to pinch this because over here. So they've done the product and the protocol as well. So I'm going to go back to list. I'm going to add my own one. And I'm going to go demo. And this is going to be UDT, Universal Device Template. Now, the description, I'm going to paste in the one that has the first name, last name, product and protocol. I'm going to put it in a device pool of default. I need to give it a security profile. I need to give it a SIP profile and a phone button template. Now, what I'm also going to do, I can go down to like device settings, see down here, and I can set these options. So by default, the owner will be the person that I deploy. But I'm going to enable extension mobility. So maybe I want to use that phone for extension mobility as well. Let me go down. So you've got all these options down here that you can open up. So I'm happy enough with that, so I'm going to go save. Wait for it to come up and say it's happy. I think something happened there. Yep, it took a second to appear. So now I've got my template. So the next thing we need to create, everybody, is the user profile. Now that's it's under user management, but it's under user settings, user profile down here. If I do a find, I've got some, again, pre-existing ones. So I'm going to go add new, and I'm going to call it demo UP for user profile. Okay, so UP. So I can go demo user profile. Now, then I can make this the default for the system, but then I'm going to assign my universal device template to here. Now, I only have one and my line template to that, but I could have different ones for different types of phones. Then, everybody, I need to tick allow the user to provision their own phones and how many phones are allowed to provision. Okay, and click save. That's done. So, the next thing then is we need to add that to the feature group template. So under user phone add, I've got my feature group template. We have, like before, there's default ones for reference. I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to call it demo feature group template. Okay. Demo. I just got FGT. I don't want to write it all in. So what I do here is I specify my home cluster. I can also enable users. I don't have any presence server here, but I can enable them for presence. If they are using Jabber, I can assign their service profile. And that means if I deploy a Jabber phone for that person, all the Jabber settings come from that. So it's also basically I can put a person in AD, sync them in, and all their settings are set. Their line is set, their phone settings are set, their Jabber settings are set, minimum amount of administration required. What I'm going to do next is assign the user profile to that demo. Then allow control from CTI. What else? I could enable single number reach on that user if I wanted to. I don't want to do it here. And then I could do a subscribe calling search base as well if basically I was using native presence. But that's the main thing. I've associated the user profile with that, and I click save. And that's it. So what do I need to do next? I need to do an LDAP integration and assign it to that. Now, to do an LDAP integration, everybody, we need to activate some services. So I'm going to go down to Core Manager Serviceability. I've actually done them already, but I just want to show you what the story is. Just bear with me. It'll take a second. We'll get there eventually. So if I go to Tools and I go to Service Activation, you can see I've already activated the directory sync. We do need that for LDAP synchronization. Also, if I go back here, I've already pre-activated the self-service IVR. Just, you know, because I'm doing a demo, I don't want to be sitting around here for a minute or so waiting for stuff to start. So they've already been done. So let's go back to the administration screen and let's do our AD integration. So the first thing we do is we go into LDAP and we define that we want to do LDAP synchronization. We want to integrate with Active Directory and we want to map the user ID to the SAM account name. We have different options. You know, you could map to telephone numbers and stuff, but we're going to use SAM account name and click Save. The next thing we need to do is we need to create our LDAP directory. So we have to set up our synchronization agreement. So I'm going to call this LDAP. Okay, it's remembered. So I need to, now, when you do an LDAP integration with AD, the user that you use, the call manager uses to access the AD, only needs read access to the containers where the users are. But I'm using administrator, but in real life, you wouldn't use administrator. You'd use some kind of service account. So it's and it's ciscoclass.com. Hopefully that's right, ciscoclass.com, and the password. Then I have to specify the context of where the users are. So it's going to be CN equals users. Oh, I have it here already. There you go. DC Cisco class DC.com. I'm not applying any filters. I'm going to do a sync once. So that means I only want to sync when I press the button rather than. So if we move down here, everybody, you'll notice now I have the option to add to users to access control groups. So I'm going to add an access control group, and I'm going to add the standard CCM end users. Add selected. That means users who get synced in will be at least able to log into the self-service portal, which was formerly the user web pages. Now, here, everybody, here we go. Feature group template. Assign it to that. That's how the assignment. And then I'm going to do a mask. I could do just XXXX, but I'm going to do 2XXX. There it is there. So that means, remember, Ed Stryker's telephone number started with 747-555-2001. Or if I don't want to use the AD number, I could put in a range of numbers here if I wanted to. And then I'll put the IP address of my AD server, 10.10.1.14. And click Save. And hopefully that will save. Usually if there's anything wrong, it won't let you save. Okay. So I've got my AD. What I'm also going to do, everybody, is as well as the synchronization, I want to use the passwords from AD. So I'm going to do an LDAP authentication as well. LDAP authentication, as you probably know, means you're using the AD password. Okay. So I put the same user in again. Just wait for that to come up. It's thinking about it. Let me try that. Something's thinking there. Yeah. Oh, that's what I need to press that button. Sorry. Okay, so administrator at Cisco class.com. Put in his password. And then the context I've saved, so I don't have to type it in again. There you go. And delete that and just put the 10 dot, there you go, and do a save. That's okay. So that means you'll notice when the users come in, they'll have no password field on Call Manager because the passwords will be on AD. So I need to make sure. So I've sunk in the users. That's so what I should be able to do now is if I go to, at the moment, if I go to users, end users, I have no users on the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to LDAP directory, do a find, and go in here, and I'm going to do perform full sync now. Just wait for that to work. So click find. There you go. Edge Striker's coming in. Department Moonbase. Click find. There's all my users come in. Now you'll notice when I go into Edge Striker, you can see he's got a self-service ID of 2001. You'll also notice his telephone was 707-555, 2001. But also you'll notice if we scroll down a bit, you'll notice that he has his Jabber service profile assigned to him. You'll also notice that if we go down further, he's got his primary extension set, and also he's a member of the standard end user group. Now, if this is where the magic happens. If I go to call routing and I go to directory number and do a find, there's my directory numbers, and it's created them all for the users, and it's put them, and it's, if I go into it, you can see everybody, it's set their description and the alerting name, and that's come from those token variables and the scrolling search space. So what's happening is the users have been created and their telephone numbers, but now we can choose how do we deploy their telephones. Can we deploy their telephones via the self-provisioning IVR, or we could just use manually doing the quick phone ad. So we have users. What we need to do next, everybody, is build the self-service, self-provisioning IVR. So to do that, everybody, what I need to do first, I need to go to device, and I need to create a CTI route point. We don't have one existing, so we'll create one. So I'm going to call this self-provisioning, what do I call it? Self-provisioning route point. Okay. And I'm going to put it in the default device pool. I'll give it a call. Okay. And that's it. I click save. When I click save, it asks me then to assign a directory number to it. So here's my directory number. So I'm going to give it 5,000. I'm going to put it in a partition that's reachable by everybody, which will be internal. Okay, I can put alert names, anything else I don't need to, there's all these options, I don't need to set them. I have all these options I can set. And then I click save. That's it. So I've created the CTI route point. What I need to create next is the application user. So I'm going to go to User Management, Application Users. Add a new application user. So I'm going to call it SelfProv User. I'm going to set a password. And then I need to associate it. What will happen is the self-service IVR will, self-provisioning IVR, sorry, will log in as that user and take control of whatever I put in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him control of that CTI route point. Okay. I also need to make sure that he's got the CTI enable group. To be able to control, you need that. Okay. And click save. So I've created the self-provisioning route point. I created the application user. We now need to actually create the IVR. So under user management, you'll notice this new menu option, self-provisioning. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to require authentication, and I'm going to say allow the user to use a PIN or an administrator override code of 8888. And then here, this is where I set the route point, and this is where I set the user. That ties them together. So that means this guy will the IVR will log in as that user and then grab control of that and click save. And then I save and restart now. Now, this is if you're using a browser that it's not, it doesn't like, you'll run into problems here. Yeah, sometimes you see that. Let me click save. Hopefully it'll be all right. Just thinking about it. There you go. Successful. Yeah, it's a bit, you know, once it saves, it saves, but getting it to save sometime can be an issue. Okay. So what we need to do next is we need to get phones on the system. So I need to turn on auto registration. So auto registration, go in. Now I need to assign a line template, a device template, a line template. I'll set a number of 2099 and set the starting number to 2090 and click save. And apply config. So I've got an IP communicator here, so I'm hoping it'll register in a second. So I'll go. I'll help it along. Oh yeah, there we go. So it's registered. So so you probably hear it through my mic. We've got dial tone. So we've got 2090 temporary number. So the next thing is we need to call the self-service IVR. Now, the other thing which I haven't done, everybody, is you can also present an XML page on the phone for people to log in rather than using the calling it. So I'm going to dial 5000.
Provision this device. Enter your self-provisioning identification number followed by the pound key.
So my self-provisioning number is 2001 and press the pound key.
Enter 2001. Press the pound key to confirm or re-enter the identification number followed by the pound key. To your PIN or authentication code followed by the pound key.
So it's asking me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my PIN, so which is 131213 and press the pound.
This device will now restart with a new extension. Goodbye.
So we watch it. See, the extension is 2090 at the moment. It should reset and come back with 2001. There you go. It's done it. Okay, so that's Ed Striker's phone. Okay, so if I go back to device phones, you'll notice there's now a phone on the system, and it's got description Ed Striker IP Communicator. There it is. Okay, so you can see it's done. It's deployed all the settings from the universal device template. And it's got his name and his protocol and the product type. That's effectively it. Now, what I could have done, everybody, if I go to the IP communicator again, I could, if I go to preferences and go to network, I could change the MAC address to something else and get it to register. So it should auto-register. I can't provision the phone again. It's already been provisioned. So that should auto-register to the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provision as a different user, 2002. So if I go back to user management, end users, I'm going to pick, let's say, I pick Virginia Lake, and her telephone number is 2002. So I'm going to call again, but this time, I as the administrator will deploy the phone on behalf of the user using the override code. So I'll call the self-service IVR again.
Provision this device. Enter your self-provisioning identification number followed by the pound key. Enter 2001.
Actually, sorry, wrong number. Let me do it again. 2002, not 2001. So this time, I'm going to pretend I'm the administrator. So I'm going to dial 8888, which is and press hash. That's it. So that's it. It should come back now as 2002. Okay, it's as simple as that. There you go. So the last thing is the quick add. Let's go and have to user management. You'll notice there's this quick user phone add. So if I do a find, it's found all my users in here. If I go to EdgeStraker again, you can see the EdgeStraker, it sees him on the system. It recognizes that he has an extension already. I could change his password or PIN here, but also over here, I've got managed devices. And it says I've already got an IP communicator. What I can do is I can find an existing phone and associate it to him that's on the system, or I can add a new phone. And let's say I pick a 9951, and there's a device template. It will deploy that phone. But what I could do is I say extension mobility template, and I'll go add. And now he has a physical phone and he has a device profile. If I go to users, device settings, device profile, do a find, you can see, I forgot to put the name in when I did it, but you can see now he has a profile and it's also associated with his number. It's as quick as that, click, bang, bang. So that's it. Effectively, you could just have it so all you have to do is put the user in AD and just deploy their phone from there. So that's it. So I think I've gone over time actually, but hopefully you found that useful. Is there? I'm here if there's any questions that you need to ask. I'm here for a while. So that's it. Hopefully you've got some benefit from it, everybody. still running at the moment, so I better stop recording. How do I start? Oh, yeah. I think it must be better than that when I favored it now, anyway. Yep.